Hello everyone. We're going to be looking at chapter 10, communication. And now in this chapter, we're going to be looking at, we're going to be considering rules and regulations when sending emails. And we're going to look at several features of the internet. In particular, we're going to define and explain many of the internet terms used and how to search for information on the internet. And also part of this chapter, we're also going to consider the difference between the internet, which is the World Wide Web, and the intranet. Okay, so stay with me on this. Now we're starting off with communication with other ICT users using email. Okay, so we want to communicate with people using email. So we're going to look at the characteristics, the uses, and the constraints. Okay, it is well established that email is one of the most common way of people communicating between themselves. Okay. However, there are certain rules that needs to be followed to ensure, the security of the messages sent and also received to prevent people writing anything which is regarded as unacceptable. Okay. And this first part, we're looking at the constraints. Okay. Now, in this country, we're looking at legislation. Okay, many countries have laws that protect people against the misuse of emails. That is sending and receiving message on the internet, right? And there is a guideline on what this law often requires companies or individuals to do when sending out emails. The law covers the use of emails and highlights a number of constraints that will be covered in this part of this chapter. Okay. Um, so what are those emails law? The first one, that it is important that emails are not sent out with false or misleading subject lines. Don't send out false or misleading subject lines, right? Subject line talks about the title of the mail that you're sending out. It should not be misleading, it should not be falsified. The next one is a valid postal address must accompany emails from companies or organizations. So it has to have a postal address, logo if possible, right? To show that this is the company that is emailing or making addresses to this particular user or group of users. Many countries don't allow companies or organizations to harvest email address. Okay, that is capturing a list of email address. They don't allow it because most of the time they can sell it out to third parties. Okay, and companies and organizations must make their privacy policy very clear to subscribers who must be made aware of such policy. You don't just tell people to subscribe without any genuine reason why they need to subscribe to the mail. And it has to be clear. It has to be stated. This is the reason why you're subscribing, and this is the information you're going to get. They shouldn't just subscribe and what they are getting is something else. No, that will not be good, right? So that is why there's an email law. Companies must provide subscribers with a very clear way, okay, to unsubscribe from their listing. So it should not be that when they want to unsubscribe, they'll have to put in personal details. Obviously, that becomes a form of phishing, right? So these laws are there to ensure that subscribers who, have been subscribing and I don't want any more, and I'm just going to back out, should have a free way to just unsubscribe, and the process should be extremely very, very easy. Okay, and of course, a company or individual must have a clear way of recipients to opt out. Right? If you want to opt out from receiving emails, it should be very clear. It should not be bogus. It should not be too many processes. Right? Many countries require senders of email to obtain what we call an opt-in permission before emails are sent out. Okay, you have to opt in before these permissions are sent out. The next constraint is acceptable language. The language used by people when writing emails should follow an acceptable code of practice. Okay? This following is a list of acceptable content to be used in email, either in text message or on online forums. We have obscene image. Okay? Unacceptable. The image should not be obscene, it's unacceptable. Language that is regarded as abusive, profane, inflammatory, coercive, um, defamatory, or blasphemous should not be it's unacceptable. Okay, should not be part of your accepted should not be part of your language speech or part of your typing process, right? Any form of racist, exploitative, or violent messages is unacceptable, right? The use of illegal materials or messages is unacceptable, okay? It's unacceptable. The list does not cover everything, but it gives an idea of what is not acceptable when sending emails. Okay, it is not regarded as adequate that recipients can simply delete messages or images. Right? It's essential that anyone writing email or posting messages on bulletin board is aware of these constraints. Okay, for employers, what are the guidelines that you need to set? Right? It is imperative that companies, no matter how small, no matter how large it could be, employ that people publish guidelines regarding the use of emails and other electronic communications. Okay, and this guideline must follow that law in their particular country in which that particular country company operates. Company must also indicate how they will ensure that all their staff are following the rules. We have an example here to show us a list of the company email policy, and we can just go through them as much as possible. One of them is that it must be clear when email content is not permitted. Employees should be told to only use their own account when sending emails, and this account should be password protected. Staff need to be aware of the methods and duration of storing emails. Incoming emails should only be read by the recipients that can only be read by another member of staff if so nominated. Okay. Monitoring of your email should be carried out, and staff must be aware that the company has the right to read all emails. Okay. And suitable outgoing trainings will take place to ensure staff follow company policy at all times. And that company policy on emails will be enforced at all times. Okay, so guidelines by employers is also very, very important. Okay, the next one is copyright and security of email. Please, it is important, right, to realize that emails are subject to copyright. Just because it is relatively easy to use or to forward an email does not mean it is always legal to do so. Yes, that is also true of any attachment sent by an email. Okay, at the web pages, the copyright in an email is determined by its what content. Okay, and we have printing, copying of all email is generally not considered a breach of copyright unless the sender has indicated clearly that this message is confidential or the subject of copyright or is subject of copyright law. It's important that the recipient checks this out before forwarding it to somebody else. Most common organizations will clearly set out the policy on sending emails and material that they contain, right? Now, this will be particularly true if the sender email address is part of the company email. For example, we have this, and the email and attachment from the company organization will usually contain some copyright statement such as this, right? Any definition of copyright is strictly forbidden unless you are the intended recipient or response for delivering message to just a frame of this, okay? Now it is common for messages to uh, to then make some statement that the views and opinions in an email may not represent those of the company, and the content may be subject to disclosure under the Freedom of Information legislation. Okay, companies are clearly very concerned about any potential risk of copyright infringement. Let's look at the security and the password protection. It is important to consider the security of emails. Very important. Many security aspects have been covered somewhere in this book. I think I have a video on security measures as well, so you probably can check the channel to see that. Some methods of increasing the security of this email include, yeah, use of strong passwords when logging to your email account. Of course, it has to be a strong password. Combination of letters, numbers, and other symbols is regarded as a strong password. Change the password on a regular basis. Use the spam filters to remove certain suspicion emails or a junk or folder, or even block the email entirely. Okay, removing antivirus and anti-spyware software at all times on your computer to protect against email from unknown or malicious sources. Emails are said to be vulnerable. to both passive and active attacks. Passive attack include the release of email materials to other users without your consent. That's passive. Active attack involve modification of your messages or even denial of service. That is overloading your service by sending out emails basically to clog up your computer and make internet access almost impossible. Active attack can also involve browsers or phishing attack, and we've talked about it in this in one of my videos. So check it out on my channel. Okay, Neticute is shortened for the phrase internet ticket, right? Which refers to the need to respect other users' view and display common courtesy, right? When very important, when posting views in online discussion groups or sending out emails, right? It is very important to consider that you write always because the writer cannot see your facial expression or body language. What may have been intended to be humorous or offend somebody if they misunderstood your message, they could draw the wrong conclusion. And that is the whole essence of why we are doing this video. Okay, you should always be aware of this when posting messages or sending emails. There are numbers of rules governing this etiquette. One of them is the one that was published in 1994 in Virginia. So we'll look at it. Do not be abusive. Do not threaten people or use personal violence. Do not send spam. That is, do not repeatedly send somebody the same information over and over again. Be clear and succinct with your message. Do not waffle, right? So your message has to be very clear. Shouldn't be bogus. Shouldn't be something that is misleading or confusing. Remember that posts are public in most cases and can be read by anyone. Always check your spellings and grammar to give a good impression. We respect people's privacy and do not discuss or publish information that might embarrass somebody, right? Forgive people's mistake. Do not be compelled to respond to an error. And do not use um, capital letters to highlight comments. This is seen as shouting in email, um, text messages, and online phones. So don't use capital letters to highlight comment. You know, what do you mean? I'm talking to you. It's seen as shouting, right? Do not plagiarize. Always acknowledge quotes used in any message. Right. Do not use too many emoticons, right? And they might annoy your readers. Don't use so many emoticons, like your emojis. Don't use too many of them. Okay? And we're going to talk about, so we'll be looking at the email groups. Okay? So email groups are used for a number of purposes. Okay? It is easier for a user to send out multiple emails, right? That's if the addresses are all grouped together under a single name. For example, we do that in right here in my school. We do that. For example, for year 8, we put all the email address into year 8 to year 7, year 9, year 10, year 11, and even the sixth form. So if you're sending out a message to the group mail, all other mails gets to get it. Now, so the user only needs to use that single name in the toolbox. Okay. Company organization can group people together for marketing purposes. Okay, for example, according to age, hobbies, favorite music, etc., etc., etc. So this means that the email can target specific groups. Okay, spammers can create email groups by buying addresses of people from a certain company or from software that raise address books or companies or email companies. Right, this means that several thousands can be people can be sent spam at once. That's also what they use. The spammers, they also use the email groups to actually do that. Okay, not just that, company also use this email group to set up meetings. Okay, for example, for video conferencing to ensure that everybody is invited to attend. So it will be easy to forget a person if the address email addresses were all typed individually. So that is why the group mail, the email groups are very, very, very key. Okay, and when new student comes in, we add them immediately to the email groups when they come in. So it's easy because it's so easy because for teachers, if you want to pass a message to your 7, you don't have to start thinking of their email address and probably another adding to this, you can actually make mistakes. Okay, you can actually make mistakes or typing errors or not getting the accurate spelling of the email address. And yeah, at the end of the day, you can see email not sent, email not sent, email not sent. So it's quite important that email groups. These are the reasons, numbers of reasons, purposes for the email groups. Okay. The next one is other email operations. Okay, apart from the person you're sending the email to, there are other operations or other options available. Okay, and we have what we call the CC. So apart from me sending an email message to just one person, there are other options you can also explore, which is your carbon copies, your blind carbon copies, forward and attachment. I'll be looking at it in this video. Okay, so the carbon copies and the blind carbon copies, let's talk about them. So the difference between the carbon copies and the blind carbon copy is that the BCC address details are invisible to everyone receiving the email. Okay, so then the invisible, that is for the blind carbon copy, right? Apart from the BCC recipients. Okay, all recipients in the CC list, however, can be seen by all other recipients. So the use of CC is just negative, right? Those on the tool are the main recipients, and those on the CC list are interested parties. BCC is often used as a security measure, okay, when using email groups. When sending an email to many recipients, the following is an added security to keep the addresses of everyone safe. Put your own email address in the tool field. Set up the email containing the email group containing all the recipients. Give it a name and then store this. Put this name email group in the BCC field, okay? And this will provide some additional protection because anyone seeing the email, authorized or unauthorized, will not be able to see the email address of the individual's recipients, okay? And that is the whole essence of the BCC. So you just have to put your email in the tool and then you put this other one in the BCC. Okay. Now, for example, this is a good a case study of it. So the tool, who are you sending the tool? I put my own name in the tool, right? And for the CC, I can put somebody I want, but for the BCC, I can put the people I want, and of course the subject line, and of course the body of the message. Okay. Then let's talk about forwarding of emails. Forwarding of emails should be treated with great care. Okay. Suppose your name is Dave and you work for a company with the domain the hothousedesign.co.uk. You have been given a company email address box, okay, where your all your emails are received, which is Dave at the company. You have decided to forward all your emails to Dave, where you can read them at your leisure. This means that all email, including spam, will be sent to your email address, right? Two problems is going to exist here. Number one, some internet service do not recognize the true source of emails and would regard all emails as actually coming from the whole house domain, including the spam, because they have been forwarded from that domain. Two, some emails have spam filters in place based on the email volume from just one address. So if you keep forwarding, at the point it sees that it's spam, right? So both outcomes are not desirable because there will now be increased risk that many of the emails sent to the email address will be seen as spam. You could end up being blacklisted by your internet service provider. For this reason, it's really not a good idea to just forward emails all at once because at the end it could be seen as spam. Number two, you could actually have a spam, and your ISP could actually see it. Okay, this is coming from a genuine place, and you usually that may not be good. Okay. The next one is attachment. I want to talk about attachment, right? Always treat attachment with great caution, right? Because spam or phishing, which we've seen, can potentially cause malicious attachment, right? So your computer can become infected if the attachment contains an executable file. Example executable files are your .exe, .msi, your .bat, cmd, and so on. Okay, it is also important to remember when sending attachments that the ISP we have a limit on the size of files that can be sent. That is the reason why we also use cloud storage and add it as a link instead of an attachment. So emails were never intended to include a large file, never. Okay, it is probably better to look at an alternative when sending the large file. So what are the alternative when sending the large file? Like I said, you could use the cloud storage. Just upload your files there, and then you can just attach the link. Copy the link and send it in when sending your emails. Okay, file compression could actually be another way. You could actually compress the file to reduce the size. That can actually work. Selecting a web service that allows files to be transferred, or upload the file and then create a link, like I've said. And this link can be sent in an email, and the recipient can easily download very large files by clicking on it. Okay, and now let's talk about characteristics and the effect of spam. Okay, it's very important that we look at it. Now, what are the characteristics? We know spam is the unsolicited emails sent over the internet. That is the constant sending, okay, of emails, of messages into your emails. We see that spam, and when it's sent to multiple recipients, and can range from being simply annoying to dangerous, because this spam can contain viruses or could be part of a phishing scam. So you have to be very careful. Spam can affect many online operations. Okay, for example, YouTube, where links called spam box, okay, are posted within videos which send users to another website. Why some will regard spam as a cheap way of advertising to many people at the same time. Most people consider it to be a big nuisance. Okay, the main disadvantages are it uses up people's time, it generally annoys people. Yeah, right. It uses up the valuable bandwidth on the internet, thereby slowing it down. It could have viruses attached, or even be part of a phishing scam. Okay, it can clock up a user inbox. You'll be having a lot of unnecessary messages being popped up in your email, thereby clocking up your user inbox, because a lot of messages, even the ones that are very, very important, you might not even get to see it. And spam is not just a problem for computer users. Now, it can also affect mobile users, mobile phones. In this case, it's usually text messages being sent to multiple phones. Okay, it is sometimes referred to as your M spam, which means mobile spamming or spam SMS. Okay, at the basis level, it just annoys people. But with some mobile phones, providers, users are charged at for each message they receive, so it can become more than just an annoyance. Okay, so for every message you receive, they charge you, right? But in a child of our country, when you're sending, actually you're being charged for sending it. Okay, so whichever way, it can really be annoying. Okay, yeah. And finally, in this video, before we close it, um, we're going to look at we're just going to look at the effective use of the internet. So let's talk about it. The effective use of the internet. Now, we're going to consider the effective use of the internet, such as internet, intranet, extranet. Okay, so let's look at the characteristics, the uses, the advantages, and disadvantages of this internet, and then we can call this a wrap. Right? The differences between the internet and the World Wide Web. What is the difference? The word internet comes from interconnected network, because it is basically a worldwide collection of interconnected computers. Okay, and the internet as a whole is usually a concept rather than something tangible. That is something we can touch. However, it relies on the physical infrastructure that allows network and individual devices to connect to other networks and devices. Now, this is a good example of what I'm talking about. So we have different hosts and hubs, and that becomes a network. And then we have a gateway, and then another gateway. We have a hub. We have a hub, a network. Now, a collection of all this is your LAN, or some people will call it collections of multiple LANs. Okay, that becomes an internet, right? So, in contrast, the World Wide Web is only part of the internet which user can access using the web browser software. You can access the internet with a web browser. So the World Wide Web consists of a massive collection of what web pages, and has based on the hypertext transfer protocol since the 1989. Okay, so we can see that the internet is basically a collection of interconnected network, and the World Wide Web is a collection of massive collection of web pages, right? So the World Wide Web is a way of accessing information using the internet. Okay, so let's look at the differences between the internet and the World Wide Web. For internet, users can send and receive emails. For the World Wide Web, it is a collection of multimedia web pages and other informations on websites. Okay. Two, it allows video chatting, online chatting rather, via text, audios, and videos. Okay, for the World Wide Web, uses what we call the HTTPS protocol to send the HTML documents, talking about your hypertext markup language, which is used for writing your HTML, and it makes it what we call, for internet, it makes it what we call the transmission protocol and your internet protocol. And for the World Wide Web, there is the URL, which is the Uniform Resource Locator, which specifies the location of web pages. For internet, it is a collection, a worldwide collection of interconnected network and devices, and the World Wide Web uses the internet to access information from the web server. Intranet and extranet, and then we can call it a day. Many companies use an intranet as well as the internet. Okay, an internet is defined as a company or a computer network based on the internet. That's what it is. Internet is defined as an intranet, rather, is defined as a computer network based on the internet technology. But it is designed to meet the internal needs for sharing information within a same organization or company. Okay, access to the internet is usually confined to company or organizations, and unlike the internet, it's not available for the general public, right? So internet resides behind the firewall and are only accessible internally to members of the company or to people given various level of access who are external to the company. Okay, and okay. Another one is the internet offers better bandwidth than the internet. Therefore, there are fewer connection limits than the internet. Okay, that is, numbers of bits per second that can be transmitted are usually higher within an internet. It is also possible to create extranet that allows intranets to be extended. So the extended version of the intranet is the extranet, okay, outside the organization, but with the same advantage as the intranet. Okay, so it is only with people who have access, okay, and thereby it is possible. Now, before we talk about that, there are numbers of reasons for adopting the intranet rather than using the internet. Number one, internet are safer because there's less chance of that external hacking of viruses. It is safer to prevent external links to, for example, safer certain websites. So you prevent external links. Companies can ensure that information available is specific to their internal audience, and it is easier to send out sensitive messages in the knowledge that they will remain within the company. Internet offers better bandwidth than the internet, therefore there are fewer connections limits than with the internet. Okay, that is, numbers of bits per second can be transmitted are usually higher within the internet, right? For the external, like we've said, trading partners to have control access to some information, although their commercially sensitive information is password protected. So with the two of them, we see intranet, we see the communication via the telephone, mobile phones, and communication via the virtual private network. Okay, so a person can connect to the company intranet using your mobile phone network to contact the company secure server. A number of safeguard will permit only certain users to have access to commercialized data. Connections, on the other hand, that is by mobile phones, by private networks, connections to company secure server is made via the internet. Secret keys are used to encrypt all communications between the user and the server. No one can eavesdrop, okay, on the transmitted data without this key. So it's an example of what we call the VPN. Okay, all right. So we have a good example like this. Now it shows the intranet, extranet, and the internet that can be connected together. Access to server behind of course, access to server is behind a firewall and is limited for external users. So we have the external users, we have the internet that people can access, we have the extranet. Of course, we have the server, we have the firewall that they have to put in their login. It's going to filter everything because what firewall does is to filter incoming and outgoing traffic from the user computer to the network. Okay, and we have the application servers, the external servers as much as possible, and then we have the internal company network. Okay, and before we go to blogs, we're just going to end here and we'll just talk about the differences between the internet and intranet. Okay, as discussed, the term internet comes from phrase interconnected network. The term intranet comes from the phrase internal restricted access network. Okay, that's why we have the intra. Okay, so that intra means internal restricted access network. An intranet is used to give local information relevant to the company, okay, or organization, whereas the internet covers everything. It is possible to block certain websites using the intranet, whereas in the internet, it is, very difficult. So we have been able to see the difference between internet and intranet. Okay, now an intranet offers requires a password and a user ID to be able to access information or to access the network, whereas when it comes to the internet you just need an ISP account. An intranet is behind a firewall that gives you some form of protection against the hackers, viruses, etc. But in the internet, there's less protection against hackers and malware when accessing the internet. Information used in intranet is usually stored on local servers, which makes it more secure from outside users for the same reason as above. So thank you very much. Hello everyone and welcome to the final series of chapter 10, communication. So we're going to be talking about blogs and wiki, social networking sites and forum. Okay, so let's look at your web blogs, what you call your blogs. They are personal internet journals, okay, where the writers or bloggers will just type in observations on topics. Okay, for example, it could be a review about a latest movie release. Perhaps you provide links to some relevant websites. You know, blogs tends to range from minor projects such as performance of a rock star, hip hop star, etc., etc., right? Through to important social issues. Okay. However, the comment makes on blogs are not immune from the law. Bloggers can still be prosecuted for writing offensive materials. So, what are the features of blogs? They are updated on a regular basis by the author, usually organized in reverse chronological order, that is based on recent to least recent entry. Normally public, anyone can read them, and entries normally come from a single author or multiple authors, as the case may be. Other internet users cannot change blogs, they can only read them. Okay, then we have the microblogs, right? The microblogs are often used on social networking sites to make short and frequent posts. Now, for the web blog, you have to create a website for it. For the microblog, you just have to use a social networking site for it. Okay, the blog can be done using your instant messaging, your emails, or other social networking vehicles such as Tweet, your Instagram, etc., etc. Social networking sites use microblog to allow members to update their personal profile. For example, another version is what we call a B blog, short form for what is called a business blog, which is used by businesses to promote themselves on the internet. Well, let's talk about wikis, right? So wikis are web applications or websites that allow any users to create or edit their web page using any web browser. So that's wikis, right? So they are more or less applications, their websites. It can allow you to just create and edit, okay? A wiki will support hyperlinks and uses a very simple syntax known as called the wiki markup or to create web pages. They often be described as web pages with an edit button. So what are the features of wiki? Anyone can edit, delete, or modify the content. Many authors can be involved in a wiki. Okay, it is possible to organize a page any way the author wishes. It can keep track of all entries that is stored, the list of your document histories, It can be easily edited, right, using what we call the web browser. It allows large documents to be seen by many people. It is easier than emailing 7 people. Okay. Social networking sites. Let's talk about it. Focus on building online communities. That is social networking. It's focused on building online communities of users who share the same interests and activities. Okay. They enable people to share photos, videos, music, hobbies, favorite eating place, and so on. Okay. The members do this by creating public profiles and they'll form relationship with other users. Okay. Now, what are the features of social networking sites? So each member of the social networking site is provided with what we call a free web space. Okay. Each member can build their own private and public profile. It is possible to upload content such as text messages, um, photos and videos. It is possible to write up each other wall. Members are given free instant messaging and video chatting. It is possible to email other members within the community. Members can create pages where they can post photos, articles, and so on. It is possible to invite people to become friends. Members have control over who can access their private or personal data. Now, all this is, in fact, if you're looking at Facebook as a case study, they all have all what we are talking about. Probably for the emailing part, if they have their email set up, you can actually email them, right? Then the next one is phone. Let's talk about a moderated forum and an unmoderated forum. Now, a moderated forum refers to online discussion forum in which all posts are checked by an administrator before they are allowed to be posted. Many users prefer this type of forum because compared to unmoderated ones, as the moderator can only prevent spam, but can also filter out any posts that are inappropriate, rude, or offensive, and even those that wanders off the main topic. Internet is essentially a huge unmoderated forum. Okay, no one owns the internet. This is true, right? It is essentially not policed. The real, the only real safeguard are the voluntary cooperations between the users and the network operators. However, most social forums or networking groups on the internet have a set of rules, okay, or protocols that members are requested to follow or they will be deleted. Okay, so that's another beauty about the social forum or the networking group because they have these rules that you have to follow. Okay, let's look at the functionality of the internet, right? And one functionality of the internet is what we call the internet service providers. Okay, and it's majorly a company that provides users with access to the internet. Okay, it is normally to pay a monthly fee for this service. When a user registers with an ISP, an account is set up and they're given login details that includes a username and a password. Okay, an ISP has equipment, telecommunication line required to access the internet. Okay, um, web address, URLs, hyperlink, web browsers. Well, for a web browser, it is a software that allows a user to display a web page on their screen. They interpret or translate the HTML from site and they show the result of that translation. This can be in the form of videos, images, or sound. Okay. Now, most web browsers have the following features. They have a home page. They have the ability to store your favorite web page, talking about bookmarks. They keep history of the website visited. This is known by what we call history. Okay, they allow users to navigate. There's that navigation aid between websites. They have hyperlinks that allow to navigate to other web pages or between web pages. Okay, and of course, most hyperlinks are shown as blue underlined text or use a small picture as a pointed finger under a phrase or image to show that that particular text or image is hyperlinked. Web browsers use what we call the uniform resource locators to access websites, retrieve the files, and etc. URLs are text addresses used to access these websites. Okay, so this URL is being typed in into the browser web address bar. Okay, using the following format. So let's talk about the formats. The first one is the protocol, which is your HTTP, right? or your HTTPS. Then we have the colon, the 2/4/, and then we have the website address. Okay, and then the website address can be in the form of your domain host. Okay, and that is the name of the website. So the domain host is www dot, the name of the address, and of course the domain type. So that is what are these are the things that are involved in the website address. Sometimes a country code as well. Okay, then we have the path. Now the path is a web page. Okay, if it's omitted, then it is then the root directory of the website. So that's the path, right? That is the folder in which you want to get whatever files you want to get, which is the file name, and the file name is the item, okay, of the web page. For example, we have https colon forward slash the name of your school, and of course slash maybe admission slash whatever. Okay, now an error will occur if any part of URL is incorrect. Usually the HTTP 404 will display on your computer screen. Let's talk about use of search engines. Okay, one of the most useful and powerful aspects of the internet is the ability to search throughout vast amount of information on almost any given topic. There are basically two ways of locating information from the internet, right? The first way is to type in the URL, that if you know the name of the website you wish to access. The second method is to use the search engine if you do not know exactly where that information is located. Let's look at this. Open your website from URL. That is, type in the name of your school, for example, and it takes you there. And that is the web address bar. Okay. Now, like I said, I've discussed the URL contains the protocol, then the website address, which contains your domain, the name of the website, and of course the domain type. Okay, to a web address. And if you're wondering, you can see it right here in chapter 238, right, which is the domain host, domain name, and the domain type. Okay, now if you know the URL for the page within the web page, you can try typing the full entry into your web browser to get a particular one. However, if you don't know, you can open it through what we call a search engine to find what you are looking for, right? But they all have one common underlining feature. That is, they look up the word entered in the search box in their database, okay, of web pages to find out which of them match the search string or criteria. Now, in the search box, you will see that this is google.com, which is a search engine. We have Bing and etc, right? Okay, so you can type it right there. And for example, what are you looking at? Maybe the search word is ICT textbook, and when you type it, it brings out what we call, this is about 86 million hits, okay, or result as the case may be, right? And you can see right here on web pages that can be found. The hits means the web pages 86 million which can be found, and that's really really too much, right? So this sort of information we can narrow it down by what do we do? We're going to add a plus. So ICT textbook plus holder plus IGCSE, and we can now get a much reduced selection. I think this is about 268,000, okay, results or web page from 86 million. Okay, now if you still want to reduce it or narrow it down, you can go to the advanced search. You click on the advanced search right there on the settings on the advanced search, and once you've done that, okay, you can now get the exact word or phrase, okay, so which is the author of that textbook. And if you do that, now although they said you can add this text, if it's known, it will search for both words together, not just for, so you add the plus. The plus means to see together. It will search for both of them together, not just one. When you give space, it will search for them individually. Okay, so once this information is found, you can save it as your favorites, and you can access them when required. All right, you can add it as hyperlinks in a document. You can bring it as hyperlinks in a document. An image of a web page can be saved using print screen. okay, or you can take a snipping tool for that. Information from web page can also be copied and pasted into other documents. It is important to acknowledge the source of information when using information from a website in your own work, both to avoid plagiarism and because the information will be subject to what we call copyright. Okay, so what are the advantages of using the internet to find information? Information on the internet tends to be up to date because it is quicker and easier to amend web pages than it is, for example, books. Okay, the internet has vast and almost limitless amount of information. Okay, searching for information using a search engine is fast and easy. People can look for information in the comfort of their own home. Okay, information on the internet is essentially free of charge, and pages on the internet can have multimedia elements, for example, video, sounds, music, sound of music, voiceover, animations, etc. Disadvantages, on the other hand, could be the internet is not regulated, so anything can be posted on the web page. Okay, and the information can be biased or totally incorrect. Okay, there's always a risk of accessing inappropriate websites when using search engine. Okay, this can take many forms and can be very distressing to certain people. All right, yeah. It is too easy to be distracted when searching on the internet. Users can find computer games, social networking instead of doing their work. And there's always a risk of information overload. That is, the user lacks the necessary experience or expertise when using the search engine. Because it is very easy to copy materials on the internet, there is a huge temptation to plagiarize materials. And of course, research skills are lost when using the internet, as search engine does all the work for you. Okay? Why internet search are not always the fast way of finding information? Well, just to bring down this, each when using search engine, there's always the danger of information overload. Okay, it is possible to find millions of websites that will match the given criteria unless the user will narrow down their search, which takes a long time to find exactly what you're looking for. How to evaluate information found on the internet? How do you evaluate information found on the internet? Is it possible to verify the legitimacy of who wrote the material? Is there a way to check if the information is factually correct? Is the article objective, talking about, is there any form of biasness to it? Is the information dated? Is it up to date? Okay. Who is it reviewed by? By whom? Does the article cover all aspects, or are all arguments fully supported? Does the website even look legitimate? Okay. Does all links websites still work? So we're going to look at internet protocol. Um, so let's look at it. The internet protocol, transfer protocol, right? And it is essentially a set of rules that must be obeyed when transferring website data across the internet. That's what the HTTP means, right? Set of rules that must be obeyed when transferring websites data across the internet. Okay, and of course, when the web page is being accessed, you have to enter your HTTP at the front of the address that tells the web browser that this is the HTTP rule. Okay. Now the next one is the file transfer protocol, and it is a network rule. Okay, now just a quick one. We have the HTTP and we have the HTTPS. The HTTPS, which is often seen along with the padlock, the S means secured. For the FTP, which is the file transfer protocol, it's the network protocol that is used when transferring files from one computer to another computer, okay, over the internet. It is similar to the HTTP, but the protocol is specifically for the transfers of files. Whereas for the HTTP, it is the rule that must be obeyed when you're transferring data across the internet, okay, not when you're uploading to your website. The secure socket layout that allows data to be sent and received securely over the internet. Okay, it is designed to work with the communication protocol like HTTP and of course your FTP. When used, a user will have to log into a website as normal, but the SSC will encrypt the data so only the user and the web server are able to make sense of what is being transmitted. And that's what they use for online shopping, etc. Sending and receiving of mails using the cloud storage, voice over internet protocol, okay, and even the use of social networking sites, okay, as much as possible. Okay. I think we are done. Internet risk. It will prevent illegal materials from there, and etc. etc. So yes. Um, okay. Talking about argument against internet risk, right? Which is yes, which is no. Okay. Now I'm just going to look at it quickly. Now they said many of the risks associated with using the internet can be raised. Okay, as long as user takes all the precautions covered in this book, yeah, their internet experience is going to be blissful. Unfortunately, internet does contain what we call inappropriate materials, some of which is criminal in nature. Many users seem to think that because the internet is not police, that they are unlikely to be prosecuted. This is the cause of this is of course untrue. To prevent inappropriate material, there are some things we need to talk about, right? Um, we have to. It will prevent if the internet were to be policed or to be strictly monitored. It will prevent illegal material from being posted to websites, and some form of control would prevent children and other vulnerable groups being subject to undesirable websites, including criminal materials. Some form of control would stop incorrect information from being published on websites. But this this is arguments in favor of internet control, right? Um, well, material published on website is already available from other sources. It will be very expensive to police all websites, and user will have to pay for this somehow. It will be difficult to enforce rules and regulation on a global scale. At different countries, we have different laws. It can be argued that policing the internet would go against the freedom of speech, and many topics and comments posted on websites are already illegal, and laws already exist to deal with offenders. Who is to decide what is illegal offensive? Many things are often offensive to certain people. For example, religious comments, but not necessarily to the majority. So I think this brings us to the end of communication. In our next video, we'll be talking about file management, or we're looking at the key things, which is part of the practicals in paper 3. Thank you very much, and please give a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Bye.